Thank you, and good morning to everybody. Welcome to the May 13th quarterly meeting of the City County Managers. Thank you all for being here. We have a pretty full agenda. I don't know if it's necessary to do intro. You know what? We don't have a big crowd here, so why don't we just, for the sake of our guests, maybe it might be worthwhile for them to know who they're talking to. So I might just go through my screen here real quick and just ask you to just mention what community you're representing. Kathy, you're first.
Did you say Kathy? Sorry.
Yes,
I
did.
Hi, Kathy Hodson, City Manager of Lakewood.
Thank you. Mark Devon.
Mark Devon, City Manager of Arvada.
Sir. Mark Ralph.
Yes, Mark Ralph, City Manager for the City of Littleton.
Thank you. Karen Garrity.
Karen Garrity, Town Administrator for Nederland.
Devon.
Devin Granberry, City Manager, Sheridan.
Linda.
Linda Cassidy, City Manager, Glendale.
Michelle.
Michelle Halstead, Director of the Commissioner's Office for Arapahoe County.
Thank you, Michelle. And I don't know if Don's got his audio. His audio's connecting, so I don't know if he can speak yet. Can you, Don Davis? Doesn't look like it. Well, Don Davis, Jefferson County Manager. He's connecting. And Dr. Cog staff, myself, Doug Rex, Executive Director of Dr. Cog. Brad.
Brad Calvert, Director of Regional Planning and Development.
Flo. You're muted.
Thanks. Still the cat. Flo Vitano, Director of Partnership Development and Innovation.
Melinda?
Melinda Stevens, Executive Assistant at Dr. Cog.
Thank you. I know we're getting more on here. Malcolm Fleming. Malcolm, if you just want to introduce yourself. If you're speaking, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just joining mobily. Malcolm Fleming, Town Administrator, Town of Erie.
Thank you, Malcolm, very much. Don, I introduced you, and I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. You're muted. God, I hate virtual meetings. We all know who you are, Don. Thanks, buddy. All righty, so we'll go ahead and get started. I know the first thing on our agenda is an update on affordable housing workshops. As you probably know, Dr. Cog's been hosting a series of workshops on affordable housing. And thanks to Flo, she's done a tremendous job in coordinating that. And I will just ask Flo, she wants to give a quick update on what the next session is all about.
Yeah, so the next session is coming up in 2 weeks. It's the 27th of May. And the focus on that one is really going to be creative out-of-the-box solutions. And we're going to be talking about things like naturally occurring affordable housing. We're going to talk about community land trusts. We'll talk about some of the work that the state and CHFA is doing to preserve and transfer ownership of mobile home parks to create cooperatives and suggestions from around the country, and should be really kind of interesting to learn about what else is going on outside of our region. So, and even some examples from inside our region as well. It's really well attended, I will say. We've had anywhere between 50 and 60 people on those calls. It's been a really broad cross section. We've had a lot of elected officials. We've had a few of the city managers joining us. We've had some planning staff joining us. We've had housing authority staff joining us, and we've even had interested members of the public joining us to learn more about the topic. So we've been really pleased with the turnout on that. So the fourth and final workshop will be in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Flo, very much. I do know I wasn't able to attend, but I did go back and watch the last one, and it was very interactive. And those anybody who would like to view those videos, they are available on our website. So I would encourage you to do so. I see Matt Sturgeon has joined us from Centennial. Matt, good morning. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see everybody. Glad to be here.
Perfect. All righty. So that takes us into an update on homelessness efforts. Flo.
Well, so this is an issue that you all brought to Dr. when we started these forums 2 years ago. So we have partnered with the Metro Denver Homelessness Initiative, and they have adopted and embraced the format that we use in our TIP sub-regional forums. That made a lot of sense to them because it brings in the electeds, the policymakers into the discussion, but there's also a technical advisory committee that actually are engaged in the day-to-day operations of it. And some of the comments that I've heard from some of you is that it makes it easy to explain the format when you say to your city councils or your county commissions, oh, that's just like Dr.Cog's, TIP sub-regional forum. That's what they're doing with homelessness. So we're hoping that will bear fruit. The MDHI has received a significant grant from Wells Fargo to work on this. And then they also have picked up a national partner that has had very significant success in reducing and eliminating homelessness in the veteran population, and then moving on and making an impact in the chronically homeless population. So we're excited about all of the partnerships that are emerging. We're in a support mode for MDHI. They're the experts and they're taking the lead on these. We're just there to support them. So that's the update on homelessness. Hopefully you all have received emails from MDHI and invitations to participate. We did tell them that we would prefer to have the managers included with the elected officials in the policy discussions as opposed to necessarily serving on the technical advisory committees. And they seem to agree that was logical. So hopefully you've heard from them.
Yeah, great, Flo. Well, Flo's categories, I think, if no one else does, that you guys should be included. But yeah, I was going to ask that. I'm glad Flo did. I hope you have received some notice information from MDHI. If not, please let us know. We want to get you guys connected. And we were actually very pleased that they're interested in kind of our Dr.Cog sub-regional model and using that template. I think it's familiar for the elected officials, so I think they really appreciate that angle. But if there's anything that we can do as Dr.Cog to help facilitate the conversations that are occurring within your counties, please let us know. Any comments, questions for Flo? Okay, great. All righty, moving right along. That takes us to a presentation we have from CU Denver College of Engineering. I know we have two gentlemen at least that are present from CU Denver. Welcome, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you, Doug. And Flo, thank you for the invitation to be able to spend a little time with you today. I know your time's really valuable. And so it's really kind of a treat to be able to share a little bit about where we're going as a college. And I'll start with that kind of maybe a little bit kind of where we're going at kind of as a university. And I'll say a couple things, introduce myself and my colleague, and then talk in a little more detail. But it's an exciting time kind of for CU Denver. I think many of you know it's, we have a lot of changes in our leadership. We have a chancellor who just joined last summer, and she's largely kind of finished or getting close to building her leadership team. We've been working, and myself, I've been supporting and leading an effort to help create a new strategic plan for the university. And my colleague, Chris Wood, who I'll kind of introduce in a second, has been a big part of supporting that as well. The kind of plan and our kind of perspective, I don't want to get out too far ahead of, over our skis, but it's kind of bold. It's an inspiring perspective on taking CU Denver to the next level. We recognize, that now is a really kind of interesting and maybe pivotal moment in time where, kind of the state and the nation increasingly needs universities like CU Denver more than ever. And as Colorado's only public urban research university, we recognize we have a huge responsibility and an opportunity. And so we're kind of planning a fall 2021 rollout of our strategic plan for the university. And I'm kind of sure, our chancellor will be looking forward to the opportunity to brief you and your colleagues on some of that. I'm going to share and kind of share my kind of screen here. And I have 4 or 5 slides that I'll just kind of talk through. And let's see, does this come across okay?
You can see it.
All right. So as I kind of mentioned, my name's Marty Dunn. I'm the Dean of the College of Engineering, Design, and Computing. And I've been here for about 3 years. I spent a good part of my career from the early 90s to kind of 2011 in Boulder, kind of as a faculty member and administrator kind of at CU Boulder. I then kind of left Boulder, kind of spent a couple years in Washington, DC, where I directed kind of sponsored research programs in civil, mechanical, and manufacturing engineering across the US. And then in 2013, I kind of left to join an effort as one of the senior leaders of a new university kind of being built by MIT in Singapore called the Singapore University of Technology and Design, where I was responsible for kind of building the research and innovation enterprise of that university. And then I was thrilled to have the opportunity to come back to Colorado, and even more thrilled to be able to come back to Denver and help start rethinking the future kind of an engineering college kind of downtown in the heart of the city in Denver. I'm gonna kind of give you kind of a quick update just to kind of set the scale and scope of our college, and then say a few things about kind of where we're going strategically. Kind of in the last kind of 3 years, I would say our cadence has been, we kind of did a lot of work the first year trying to create a vision for how, we can differentiate ourselves, how we can impact kind of our students, impact our community, through our college. And I'll share a little bit of that with you. We just finished that and started to roll it out and started to socialize and introduce our new selves in many ways to the region. And then the pandemic hit. So we've been a little bit, we hunkered down. We figured out how to, over the last year, transition to teaching, over 500 different courses online and kind of keeping our research kind of moving online and so forth as everybody's worlds have been shifted during the pandemic. And now we're in this stage kind of as the university is kind of coming and re-emerging from the pandemic. We are as a college, and will be increasingly, I would say, introducing our new and future self, to the world. And so I'm happy to be able to say a little bit about that today. I know many of you know kind of about CU Denver, and I suspect many of you don't. One of the things I found when I kind of arrived here is that we really were lacking mind share in terms of our college and our university, quite frankly. But just kind of quickly, I would say we're a college on the move in many ways. We're growing fast. We're growing in exciting dimensions that are aligned with what the kind of private and public sector are telling us they need. They need technology, they need diverse workforce, they need kind of a workforce that can be creative and create solutions to the world's challenging problems. I think we've grown. I won't go through all of this, but kind of we're a fairly small engineering college. We have about 1,700 plus students, and that's quite frankly a really significant growth. We've grown just in the last 3 years by about 35%, and we've significantly increased, the diversity of our student body on top of what's already kind of the most diverse the most diverse research university in the state of Colorado. We're organized kind of right now in 5 distinct departments across 2 campuses. We have a bioengineering department that sits on the Anschutz Medical Campus. It's one of only 15 or 20 such departments kind of located on a medical campus in the country. So it's kind of really, you know, in my view, it's exactly where our folks who are creating new solutions, new technologies, so forth for healthcare need to be kind of right in the heart of where the problem statements are. We have an electrical engineering department that's kind of remarkably, and those of you familiar with universities would appreciate my term remarkably, they've completely redesigned their curriculum, making it incredibly contemporary and kind of attractive to employers. We have a civil engineering department that many of you have probably engaged in different ways. It's heavily engaged in the various communities and here through initiatives in transportation and infrastructure and so forth. The mechanical engineering department that kind of really kind of focusing on, you know, serving the Colorado kind of aerospace community through design and advanced manufacturing. And then a computer science department that's just booming, as computer science departments are across the country. In the last 3 years, our computer science department has doubled, and we think there's, you know, we will likely double again, you know, in the next few years as we strategically grow kind of both within kind of computer science across our college with regard to computing and across the university. Part of our growth is really anchored under really exciting new contemporary offerings. We kind of launched a new Bachelor's of Arts degree in computer science that is a much broader and more kind of broadly appealing degree that recognizes and educates students to be able to enter many different disciplines, from marketing to, you know, accounting to, you know, to anthropology and so forth, and help firms that they enter go through the digital transformations that they are going through. So this is framed in this context of a computer science plus X, where we pair computer science kind of with new contemporary or kind of with existing and new emerging fields. We are launching a new cybersecurity degree, and that we expect kind of will really be booming, you know, this fall. We've kind of launched 2 new degrees, one in construction engineering, an undergraduate degree, and one in construction management, kind of largely in partnership with a number of firms kind of, and, you know, throughout the region. And we've launched, you know, we've approached the way that we think about curriculum and providing education kind of in a way that rather than just thinking about degrees, we're thinking about the ability to modularize and stack credentials in various ways. And, you know, rather than come and take classes and earn a degree, kind of we work with students to build degrees that are aligned with their kind of emerging passions and their ambitions. We have kind of exceptional faculty. I think it's a bit of a secret, you know, how fantastic our faculty are. You know, about over a quarter of them have won top awards, you know, from the National Science Foundation, kind of for faculty across the country, which is competitive with any engineering college in the country of any size. You know, we're really doubling down on building our research enterprise and focusing on research that's broadly impactful. And so we are really interested in kind of working across disciplines, working with partners, you know, and making this a staple of the way that we do research, and focusing our efforts right now on 2 key areas, one around health systems and technology, and one around urban systems and technology, things like smart cities and critical infrastructure and so forth. Our enterprise is expanding significantly, and that's providing great opportunities for our students and great opportunities to partner and make an impact. You know, we've doubled kind of our research awards over just the last couple of years. Innovation and entrepreneurship are kind of a key element of our college, and I'll talk a little bit about this in terms of how we're trying to differentiate kind of ourselves through kind of innovation and entrepreneurship. You know, kind of my colleague, who I'll introduce in a minute, kind of Professor Chris Wood, kind of leads an initiative that actually threads across our college as well as the entire university. You know, a key part of that is building opportunities for our students to engage in real world problems. And so that's where I think we're really interested in kind of connections with folks like yourselves to identify opportunities to engage in real world capstone design projects. And partnerships are a key element of our strategy moving forward. And I just mentioned here a couple of really kind of significant partnerships that we've launched, you know, and some building on long-term partnerships, for example, with civil engineering and the city and county of Denver, but really exciting new partnerships that we've built. And in many ways, I would argue or kind of try to express that, you know, we realize we're a small college, we've got big ambitions, and in order to achieve them, we've got to partner and be connected kind of with our community. And we're trying to kind of increasingly kind of turn kind of the page and kind of let the world know we're open for business. You know, this, let's see here. You know, I mentioned a partnership. This is, you know, one we haven't even christened in person yet, but we opened a fantastic new lab that kind of allows our students, as well as collaborations with kind of folks externally, to work together kind of with, and this is supported by Trimble, kind of with, you know, cutting edge technology, things like virtual reality, robotics, you know, AI and so forth, in kind of engaging in construction, civil engineering, and urban solutions. I mentioned I'm kind of wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of our college, and now I'll just kind of close kind of quickly with spend a few minutes talking about our strategic plan and where we're going. And again, we created this plan that we call Impact, and it's our strategic vision kind of for kind of the period, you know, 2019 to 2024. We had just launched it, you know, got excited and are spinning up kind of our implementation. And then, as I mentioned, kind of hit the pandemic. So I feel like we're coming out and excited to come out of hibernation and share a bit of this with the world. I won't go into, you know, a tremendous amount of detail or anything, but, you know, kind of at the core, you know, kind of our purpose as we see it is to educate agile and versatile engineers for tomorrow's workforce, to prepare our students for fulfilling and impactful lives, recognizing that, you know, the shelf life of knowledge is getting shorter and shorter. You know, our students, you know, our society is living longer and longer, and we need to be able to kind of engage our students in a lifelong, you know, learning for a lifetime. And then, you know, we're focused on creating solutions to major societal challenges through our research and our creative work. So we're doing this kind of through innovative computing and design-oriented engineering education. And at the beginning, kind of when you introduced, you saw the name of our college is, we've renamed, rebranded, and reoriented our college. We call it the College of Engineering, Design, and Computing. And this is really purposeful and meant to kind of be a signal toward our kind of future pointing perspective on engineering education. So we're educating engineers that are across the board, whether it's civil, biomedical, you know, mechanical engineers, and certainly computer scientists, electrical engineers, that are going to come out of our programs kind of versed in the cutting edge of computing technology, kind of things like AI and machine learning, robotics, or virtual reality, and Internet of Things, kind of 5G communications. So we view, you know, our students kind of being able to, in various ways, engage in these emerging, and they're emerging so rapidly and changing so rapidly, and being able to take these technologies and engage them and help create impactful solutions for humans and for society. And the way that we do that is through a real deliberate emphasis on design. And engineering colleges have always emphasized design, but we're doubling down on the importance of design. And to us, it's really about creating value. It's about creating value with and for humans and with and for society. So kind of really being, developing programming from the very first day students step onto campus through their very last day on campus through their capstone design experience that sort of inculcates design as an ethos within our students. And as I mentioned, kind of interdisciplinary research through partnerships is essential for us. And so this is kind of the last slide. We've got kind of developed, what we think is a very exciting strategic plan, for our future. There's a number of, in some ways, we just kind of expressed part of that through a set of what we think and what we know are really, big ideas that if we can deliver on, can really differentiate ourselves, can help CU Denver, be the kind of university, that the world is increasingly looking for, and can help, serve our region kind of in our state. And I won't go through all of these, but we're really going through significant kind of transformation of our educational enterprise, kind of new curriculum, cutting edge offerings, looking at things like, recognizing the limited shelf life of knowledge and putting things like, expiration dates on our syllabi and so forth. Our diversity and of our campus is really one of the unique assets of our campus. And we know that diversity is a key ingredient for fueling innovation. And it's critical for what employers are telling us what they're looking for. I mentioned kind of design-oriented kind of engineering education and computing across everything we do. We look to build that 21st century human and social skills through our design framework. Kind of the idea that students start working in teams and start learning to be creative from day one, is coming through kind of this design framework. And just the last thing I'll just kind of leave with, and again, why I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to share a bit of our ambitions and our goals kind of with you, is that we know that the only way to kind of achieve our, the impact that we think that we want to make and that we need to make to live up to our responsibility to serve the region and the state is through critical partnerships. And so I'm really grateful for Flo in her role bringing us to the table here and just allowing you to introduce ourselves to you and talk a little bit about our college. And I'm going to kind of pause on questions, but then I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to introduce my colleague, Chris Wood, who's going to kind of talk in a little more detail about some of our kind of opportunities for engagement and how we do this, through kind of one program, and specifically our capstone kind of design program. And so kind of Chris Wood, who I'll kind of introduce here, has joined us now kind of about 2 years ago. And I was just thrilled to be able to recruit Chris as one of the kind of country's leading educators and researchers in design. So Chris is really helping us put the D in design kind of in our college. Chris, I had the pleasure to work with him kind of as a senior leader kind of in this effort kind of in Singapore, but Chris spent most of his career at the University of Texas, where he was a distinguished professor at UT Austin. He's actually a Colorado native, kind of did his undergraduate at Colorado State, grew up in Colorado, then went off to Caltech in Texas. And we're just thrilled to have him back kind of with us, kind of helping drive innovation and, engagement and design within our college. And so kind of with that, Chris, I'm going to hand it off to you. And then in the end, we'll answer, engage questions, collaboratively, if that works.
Great. Thank you, Marty. And colleagues, if you want to jump in at any point with a comment, question, throw darts at us, do whatever you'd like to do, please do so. And I promised Doug and Flo that I will remain on time, so I'll make sure we stay on the itinerary. So no worries there. I'll jump into our programs, but again, if there's any questions, stop us along. It's really a joy to be with Dr. Cog today, as well as the city and county managers. I'll briefly whet your appetite with these programs. Please note in chat, I did put a couple links you might be interested in, some ways to engage us, but also in particular, our program in capstone design. And then Marty and I have placed our contact information in chat for you if you'd like to reach out to us. So let me share here. And it's great to be with you. While I'm sharing, oops, I need to make sure I share with Sam. Do it again here. While I'm sharing, just gotta let you know, I'm beaming in from Massachusetts. I just arrived last night because I finally get to visit my 7-month-old grandchild that I've not been able to hug for 7 months because of COVID, but I'm vaccinated now. So I hope you don't mind me beaming in from Massachusetts with you today. Well, let me dive into programs. Jump in at any point. I'm not going to reiterate the strategic plan. Marty's already done that, but we're really about bringing a really new educational experience to our students, our diverse students. 50% of our students are from underrepresented groups, first-generation students, students returning back from careers such as in the military, lots of transfer students. So it's a very unique student body that can do great things in Denver and in all the cities and counties that surround it. Marty went through our big ideas, and I'm going to build on those with some programs. And Marty's done this. So one of the programs we want to talk to you about very briefly, whet your appetite on this little journey in this couple of minutes that I'll present, is our capstone design program. This is a program where we get to, quite frankly, partner in deep ways with public entities, such as you all, and private entities, industry of all types. And we are doing this. We're raising our game in this. We have over 20 sponsored projects this year, and we quite frankly want to keep raising that to about 50 over the next couple of years. What is Capstone? Capstone is a chance for organizations such as yourselves to engage the beautiful, wonderful diversity of students that we have in a design project that matters to you. This can be a product, a service, a system, a process that you would like to advance. Giving you one example, we are working with Adams County. I didn't see Adams County online there, but Adams County is working with this on homelessness. And I got to meet with Emily from Adams County this week, and we're scoping out a few projects for homelessness, such as potable water. How do we provide that in very important ways to the folks in their case in Adams County? Litter, how do we deal with the litter issues and sanitary systems to really provide that as a capability for in this case, the county and others. And we can scope those so our students can engage it, bring innovation, bring hundreds of ideas back to the city, county, or other partners, and be able to prototype those, test them, and give results that make a difference in people's lives, make an impact. So that's an overview. What's the difference? And you can read the bullets, but I'll highlight it. We have teams, it says 3 to 5, but we typically have teams that are somewhere between 3 and 10 students working with a faculty mentor, working with an industry or public entity mentor as well for 9 months. We love to do them when they're interdisciplinary across all 5 of our departments. We do agile sprints, so the students get to go through the design process 2 or 3 times and have prototypes by the end of the first semester, and then really valuable solutions by the end of a second term. So it's a 9-month program. When we do these projects with public and private entities, we like to do them for about $15,000. And you might go, oh, what's that for? Well, that's to really support the students, have a self-funded, sustainable program. And then you as entities get over a year, a person year of work out of that with amazing ideas, plus all the IP goes to the entity, such as yourself. So it's just beautiful. You'll get lots of ideas, lots of prototypes, and then some deep analysis, of course, because we come from engineering. That's a little bit of our difference. What's in it for our students? You know, it's all about our students. You know, it helps them develop their professional skills. We have a differential design innovation process that we've run with over 120 organizations around the world, and we really believe in it, bringing that innovation at a cutting edge. Giving a chance for students to get exposed to potential employers. 30% of the students that are in this actually get hired by their capstone sponsor. That's how valuable it is. So it matters to our students. It makes a difference in their lives. It puts them at that forefront of being hired as engineering and design professionals. Just checking my time, make sure I stay on time. So the things that belong to the sponsor, ultimately we do develop and deliver prototypes. Again, over a person's years of work for a nominal relationship and fee that goes with it. Lots of ideas, and when we say lots, we don't mean 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually we give tens or over 100 ideas for the opportunity statements with our partners. Lots of collaboration. It's a chance for you to get to meet us at that sort of entry level of engagement. And then typically it spins off into other projects, connections to our faculty, staff, our students. They get engaged in design innovation training, and we're able to do that with you all. If there's an interest to continue on with other projects with our experts, such as my team, we can do that. And then it's a privilege just to work with the next generation of technical leaders. Marty said our faculty may be a little bit of a secret. They're amazing, and I get a chance to connect to them. All right, so that's a little about the program. I have a couple examples here. I'm just going to briefly highlight them. This is an example of a project we were working on. It's pretty technical, but it was with the Air Force Research Labs. And it was to how do you do navigation like in urban canyons where GPS gets denied so that you can do smart cities and other aspects. And we created some really cool technology for the Air Force that now can apply to civilian cities and smart cities. And that got patented from our capstone projects. Here's another Air Force Research Labs project where we got to work on drones, delivering drones again and sensors to location. And you can see a sensor being loaded up here on a light pole to do, and what it was meant to do was to do tracking and help with pedestrian traffic and other aspects, but do that all in an autonomous way. Again, maybe the future of smart cities. We do have an expo. I put the link up for you. Annually, we run an expo of projects across our 5 departments. It is an absolute blast seeing the innovations of our students come to fruition and the talents of the futures that are going to become leaders. So I recommend, if you want to see that, visit the website that I put in there for you. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up because I'm sensitive to time. But we do lots of other projects. We love our program. We're raising it to the next level, bringing pride to our students, working deeply with partners, and having an outward-facing program that we can make a difference in Denver and the entire surrounding region. We have, with this, complementary programs in InWorks, which I'm fortunate to lead. And InWorks is an innovation initiative at CU Denver. It's across the entire campus, not just our college. And it also tries to really do partnerships with the community. So we have 2 projects with Westminster that are actually just wrapping up now. I told you about Adams County. We're also, I know Jefferson County's online here. We're trying to do some work with you all, as well as Arapahoe County, I noticed, was online, trying to do some work with your libraries. So InWorks is a great venue to do that. All right. And I'm going to skip here because I'm sensitive of time. But let me end. We have, again, another program called Comcast Media and Technology Center. But let me end with a community project. And I'll just show you a little video here. This is one we're doing with 5 Points. You all may know 5 Points in the central Denver region. We're doing an artistic walk with them, engaging businesses and bringing the history of the diverse people in 5 Points, the community, and the art that is developed there to really respect that history, that heritage, but also connect it to business. So let me end with this video and we'll wrap up our presentation hopefully on time here. So please enjoy this video showing a community project that we have in action.
Play something for me like you used to. I would sit on your bench. With your fingers pressed over mine, we would chat in Mingus, Tatum, and Ellington. We made your piano cry. Your mother said you learned to play at 3 years old. Taught yourself to speak in song. Let your dolls collect dust and played sold-out concerts in the living room. I can't imagine a world unwilling to listen to the cries of its servants with your prayers being sent in Nat King Cole harmony.
Great. I'm going to end there. It was great. I think I stayed on time. Doug and Flo, thanks for hosting us, and Dr. Cog, colleagues from all the cities and counties. Please reach out to us. We would love to partner with you, for our students first, but for making a difference in all of our communities. Dr. Cog, back to you.
Chris, thank you, sir, very much. And welcome home, sir. Glad to have you back in the Denver region for sure.
A Colorado native, I actually born in Burlington. You all know where Burlington is.
Yeah.
And then I went to Ranham High School, which is no longer a high school, but was Westminster. And then Marty told the rest of my story. It's a joy to be back. Thank you, Doug.
Oh, you're welcome. Marty, thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate your attendance today and taking time out of your busy schedules. I know you guys got a lot of other things you could be doing, but we truly appreciate you being here with us today. Any questions for Marty or Chris before we leave? I know there were a couple in the chat. I know Don Tripp has joined us from Westminster, and he acknowledged the work that they're doing with CU Denver. And Don Davis, I know, had a question I think was answered by Marty. Anybody else have a comment or question for our guests?
Doug, this is Mark Ralph. I got a comment, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate the presentation, and being a CU Denver graduate and also a degree in civil engineering, I kind of nerded out over this presentation, so I appreciate all that. Thank you.
Yes.
One of the things that you guys touched on, which I think is pretty important, are the partnerships and the capstone. And I'm not sure if you have a partnership with the South Platte Renew. This is the wastewater treatment plant for Inglewood and Littleton. But I think that's a great opportunity for you guys, for CU Denver. And I'd be more than happy to make the introduction if you're not familiar. Peter Van Rye is the director of the wastewater treatment plant. And, having a degree in civil engineering and kind of watching the processes, this is the third largest plant in the state. And it has just very unique opportunities for engineers in particular to kind of learn, hands-on, obviously. And Peter, I think, has just been great when we talk about innovation. And specifically, we just completed here a conversion of methane to a biogas injection system, one of the very few in the entire country. And so I think it demonstrates, our commitment here, both with Inglewood and Littleton, about innovation. And there's a lot I could say about innovation. I think we all value that. Living it is a real challenge. How do you kind of institute that within an organization? And I think our wastewater treatment plant, quite honestly, is just a great opportunity to do those kinds of things. So Marty and Chris, I think if you want an introduction, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Absolutely, we'd love it. We'll reach out to you and, let you kind of put us in contact. That would be terrific. And it's great to meet you. And
yeah.
And great to nerd out with you, Mark. We'll reach out.
Yeah, thank you.
It's always now my bias is showing. It's always wonderful to see engineers in these kind of leadership positions that you have.
Yeah, how I got to be a city manager, I'm still scratching my head there, but yes.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Mark, very much. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Well, we'll let our guests go. Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay on if you like, but I know you got other stuff to be doing.
Thank you all.
The
Thank you, Flo.
grandkid got something to do with it, I'm sure, Chris.
Hey, man, I'm off. Going to go feed him. So I'm out of here.
Perfect.
Hey,
See you guys.
Chris and Marty, we've had a request for your presentations. So if you
Okay.
just send them to me and I'll get it
Definitely.
distributed.
You bet.
On its way. And Flo, I'll give you both. I'll give you a PDF, but if somebody wants to see the video in it, I'll make sure I give you a link to that as well, Flo.
Great, terrific.
Great. Thank you all. It's been great.
Thanks, everyone.
sharing
Have a
some time
great
with you.
rest of your day.
Thank you all, you too.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
We also, I was remiss, we also have two other members that have joined. Michelle from Parker's here. Michelle, good to see you. And Heather Balser from Louisville is also here. So thank you guys very much for attending. And we'll zip along here on the agenda. So the next update is from Dr. Cog's staff. Brad's going to give us an update on a few items that he wanted to just make you guys aware of. So Brad, you're up, sir.
Thanks, Doug. Afternoon, everybody. I think the agenda suggests 3 items in 30 minutes. I'm aiming more for like 7 items in 20 minutes. This will be very rapid fire. Just there's a lot going on and I want this group to be informed about all that. And I will put a few things in the chat sort of after the spiel. Couple of these are kind of announcements. Some of them are in the sort of show me the money category that Don alluded to earlier. I've got a couple of recruiting pitches. These are basically opportunities for staff in your communities to join regional working groups. And then I've got a quick survey that I was actually going to run by this group as well. Very, very not scientific, but I think this group is an important sort of group to check in on this. And I will offer one bonus item that really was sparked by the CU Denver presentation. We actually, as Dr. Cog, partner with CU Denver and DU on something that we call our geospatial skills study. What that basically means is that we are surveying employers from around the region that hire recent graduates in the field of GIS, so Geographic Information Systems, to make sure that those universities are designing their curriculum so that when day one those folks enter the workforce, they have the skills they need to meet the needs of their employers. Obviously, local governments are a big landing spot for new GIS professionals. Your needs are very much part of that work. So I wanted to mention that as just sort of one thing that happens at Dr. Cog that hopefully is of value to you all sort of down the line. On the agenda, it notes an update about Census 2020. I mentioned to Flo, and ultimately my ask is going to be, I think this is a better item for September for a more detailed conversation, but I'll kind of give you a sense as to why I'm suggesting that. Obviously, the census apportionment data has been in the news recently. Big headline, obviously, Colorado picking up a seat in the House of Representatives. But they have also been sort of slowly announcing their schedule for the release of the other census products. Most notably, what oftentimes gets referred to as redistricting data. That's the stuff that you understand is like county level and below census tract, census block group data. They are anticipating a preliminary release of that product in mid-August, with a final release more like late September. The State Demography Office, Elizabeth Gardner and her team have committed to, as soon as they have the data in hand, they will make it available on their website for folks to take a look at, both preliminary and final data. And your September 9th meeting actually falls pretty well in between the initial release and the final release. So it may make a lot of sense to have Elizabeth or her team come and just sort of share their early observations around those data, given how important they are to the work that you do locally. Like to give you for instance, there has been consistent and growing concern about how the 2020 data will compare in terms of accuracy to previous releases. The thing that has come to mind for me, for you all, is to what degree should they be relied on to draw ward boundaries for districts and things like that? If you really can't feel confident in the data, how do you do even foundational things like that are obviously important to you all? So my general recommendation is just based on their schedule is to maybe think about a more formal briefing from the demography office at your September meeting, just so that you can have a sense of what's coming later that month and how you and your staff can prepare for those releases. So I mean, feel free to sort of work with Flo as she's thinking through the agenda if folks want to sort of hear more about that in September, but that definitely feels like something to think about. I see a few head nods, so that's good. So in the Show Me the Money category, I've mentioned this a few times to this group. The Front Range Waste Diversion Enterprise has grant opportunities that are ultimately about supporting Front Range communities in their efforts to increase recycling, composting, and waste reduction. Their request for applications for the upcoming round just came out yesterday. And so I'm going to throw that in the chat here in a second. That has been an opportunity that DRCOG applied for last year. We've talked to you about that we were not successful, but I've been meeting with staff from around the region to think about what an application might look like again in 2021 for the regional scale of that work. And I have every expectation that we will ultimately submit an application again, but most importantly, local governments are eligible and frankly a primary target of those investments. So I certainly I'll throw that in the chat so that you can see it. Applications are due to that enterprise on July 13th. So it just came out, so there is time to really think about how you and your community can take advantage of that opportunity. Another funding opportunity that's out there right now that's actually sort of run through my shop. The current transportation improvement program at DRCOG includes about $5 million over 4 years of federal transportation funds for what we call the Community Mobility Planning and Implementation, shortened to CMPI. So if you hear me say CMPI, that's what I'm referring to, set aside. As with many of our TIP set asides, we have sort of a 2-year funding cycle for those. And so we have just kicked off the funding cycle for the next 2 years of that, based on sort of attendance at kind of an early input session, as well as a required pre-application webinar we hosted a few weeks back. I'm pretty sure local governments in the region are aware of this opportunity, but I also always like to sort of mention that there is an application process open in case you want to connect your staff to that, most notably because our application actually includes 2 steps. We are in the sort of letter of intent phase right now. It's a really easy phase to get through, send 2 or 3 paragraphs about what your community is thinking about in terms of a planning project or a small infrastructure project. And then our team works with every single entity that submits an LOI to prepare them for the more involved application phase. So I just mostly wanted to mention that. Those letters of intent are due on May 21st. And again, I think we had something like 29 unique local governments on the most recent sort of application webinar for that. So I feel pretty good that your staff is aware, but I wanted, since we've got you, I figured I'd mention that. So that's kind of the funding availability that's out there that I wanted to mention. A few sort of announcements. We will be sort of starting our promotion for this, but I wanted to go ahead and mention to this group, our next MetroVision Idea Exchange is scheduled for Thursday, June 3rd, and it's going to feature the Sustainable Neighborhoods program. Program participating agencies, it basically is a model to advance neighborhood climate action and empower residents to create sustainable and resilient communities. Most notably built on a framework created by the city of Lakewood all the way back in 2012. So a success story from our region that is actually sort of growing and enhancing. And so we want to celebrate that program and let folks know about the opportunity to ultimately join the program and continue to sort of advance that award-winning work to really engage community and sustainable outcomes within your community. So again, Thursday, June 3rd. Shout out to Kathy and her team for the building block for that. But I know a lot of communities in the region are very interested in joining that network. And then I mentioned a couple of recruiting pitches. These are basically things that are going on where DRCOG and or partners are bringing local governments together in a series of work groups. I just want to make sure you're aware, and if there are staff that you feel like are logical additions to those, you can either reach out to me directly, throw it in the chat, those sorts of things. I got two things that kind of come to mind. DRCOG is right on the cusp of convening something that we're referring to as an inclusionary housing work group, with the possibility of some new clarity around inclusionary housing and zoning as a tool that local governments can use to promote new development and redevelopment of affordable housing. DRCOG was actually approached by a member government to bring a cohort of local governments together to talk about this opportunity and to learn from each other about what folks are thinking about in terms of designing or revising ordinances. In true DRCOG fashion, the first thing that I thought of when I heard that is, well, let's survey our members to make sure our member governments are interested in this topic. And the short version is was overwhelming interest. I think we ended up with something like 50 responses from 29 unique jurisdictions, with probably 10 or 12 that are actively considering how and in what way they would either create a new inclusionary housing ordinance or significantly revise one that they have on the books, and another 10 or 12 that ultimately have direction from council or commissions that affordable housing is an important element of their work, and they should be exploring every possible tool to create more affordable housing options in their community. So with all that said, it felt like a really important topic, and there was a lot of interest. So we are busily planning what is ultimately going to be kind of a 5-part series over the next few months. Again, lots of interest already. I'm pretty sure I've got good coverage, but I mostly, if this topic is of particular interest to you and your community, just connect me to the right person. We are going to schedule what the Southerner and me would refer to as a y'all come meeting. That's kind of just a download of everything that we know related to the possibility of moving forward with more inclusionary housing ordinances around the region. There was a lot of interest in just sort of the basics, and then we will drill down into more specifics, like how to structure those ordinances, including sort of weighing in or understanding the developer's perspective, understand how to structure them from the sense of what the administrative and staffing considerations ought to be for managing both ordinances and programs, how to do the marketing and messaging side of things, and then really just connecting jurisdictions around the region that are considering this work with each other, so that they can learn as they're ultimately developing and revising ordinances. So again, I've got probably about 35 or 40 staff from around the region that I'm going to invite to the first meeting, and then see who wants to be involved long-term. But if you heard enough here to suggest you've got somebody on your team that absolutely positively needs to be plugged in, just send me a note in the chat. I'll make sure that they get all the materials for that. The other one is a sort of a partner work group. So the Regional Air Quality Council has recently established a local government work group focused on local climate action and sustainability planning. RAC sort of had their purpose as an organization sort of recently sort of re-emphasize the need for RAC to focus on climate and greenhouse gas pollution, and they're trying to understand how and in what way they can be of best service to local governments through that work. So in addition to sort of bringing that group together to coordinate sort of the activities of local governments, the group is also endeavoring to serve as a liaison between local governments and the state, as the state continues to pursue legislation, policies, and regulations to achieve greenhouse gas reduction targets. It just made sense for there to be a table that's the logical place to ultimately brief local governments and to receive feedback directly from local governments about how the state is pursuing strategies to reduce GHG emissions. So I'm working with RAC to basically finalize that group. They had a first meeting a couple of weeks ago and they had pretty good attendance, lots of interest. I will say that we had good representation from Broomfield, Denver, Jeffco, and Boulder County. But if you did not hear your general area of the region, and that means there probably wasn't enough representation. So again, I'm reaching out to maybe 10 or 12 local governments, specifically to staff that carry something like a sustainability officer or sustainability coordinator in their title, to see if they would be interested in joining the work group. But much like the previous item, if this seems like it's something of interest in your community and you've got someone on your team that feels like a logical addition to this work group, just send me or Flo the information. I'll make sure they at least get invited. They should hear what the work group is working on, understand the time commitment before they decide to join. I'm just trying to sort of help with some basic recruiting. So again, really focused on sort of local climate action planning, sustainability and resiliency planning to help out the Regional Air Quality Council. Last one, promise. The other one that I was just going to mention is Lifelong Colorado. Lifelong Colorado is an initiative that works through state agencies, regional organizations like DRCOG, and community partners across the state to address opportunities and challenges related to the growing of our aging population, really through a focus on kind of livable communities and health equity. DRCOG is a founding member of the Lifelong Colorado Steering Committee and has been sort of involved every step of the way, and frankly has been privileged to even work with communities from around the state to understand how to advance the practice of age-friendly planning throughout the state of Colorado. And I mostly just wanted to mention it because Lifelong Colorado recently released their strategic plan, Livable Communities for All Coloradans. It's really a plan that's designed to help coordinate state strategies and programs to meet the demands of its aging population and to make the state livable for all older adults. And I'll put a link in the chat to the plan. But one thing related to that release is that May, if you don't know, is Older Coloradans Month. So there's a whole series of programming throughout the month to connect people to this important topic. DRCOG is participating in several sort of webinars and informational opportunities throughout the month, including one where we will bring communities around the state together that are implementing age-friendly community initiatives. We've worked with probably 20 or so local governments through the DRCOG region to complete age-friendly assessments and or strategic plans. Many communities represented by folks I'll see on the phone. We've been doing this for about the last decade or so, but I actually wanted to use this opportunity to kind of crowdsource a little bit what is on the mind of city and county managers related to thinking about your efforts and initiatives to create environments in your own jurisdictions where people can age successfully in their community versus maybe moving to assisted living or nursing home facilities. The vast majority of people want to age independently in their home or in a home that belongs to friend, family, et cetera. And so that's been a big area of emphasis for DRCOG, Jayla and I over the last decade or so. And 10 years in, it feels like a good opportunity to kind of see where folks are. So if folks are game, I was actually going to run a very quick sort of 4-slide poll that we're going to use here. And then again, next week at the Older Coloradans Month webinar that I mentioned, just to see how communities are thinking about this issue and whether you feel like it's something that's a priority in your community, and how and in what way DRCOG and our sort of network of partners can assist you as you're thinking about creating communities where people can age successfully. So I will cross my fingers that our technology works out so that I can do this. So Flo, I'm going to share my screen. I don't want that. There we go. can folks see the slide that's up? That's the sort of Mentimeter poll. I don't know how much you guys have used this technology, but it's pretty simple. Go to menti.com as shown on the screen, and then use that 8-digit code. And that basically allows us to do this live polling. Fingers crossed, all the technology works. So again, menti.com, and then the code is 8747 2283. We'll see if this one works. Good, Doug, you have something?
That code is at the top of the screen there too, just in
Yep,
case.
you can see the code at the top of the screen. So again, a very non-scientific poll. I'm going to run this today, and then we're going to run it again next week with a larger group. I'm just mostly sort of curious about the state of the practice. Has your jurisdiction completed an age-friendly assessment and or developed a plan to better support your current and future older adult population is what we're polling for now, and I've got a couple more after this. We've got some leaders on this topic in the room today, which is great. So it looks like I've got 8 responses. 7 of 8 of the communities have completed either an assessment or a strategic plan specifically focused about meeting the needs of the older adult population. I'll go to the next one. For those of you that answered yes, and even if you didn't answer yes, but you have a success story, any success stories that you'd like to mention that maybe came out of thinking through the specific needs of older adults in your communities? If so, this is kind of a free response. You ought to be able to sort of type in something that maybe comes to mind for you. I'll give you one example. I know the city of Edgewater just completed an assessment, and one of the things they decided to do is to create a very specific age friendly older adult resources page on their website. Pretty easy. As soon as you get to the landing page for Edgewater, you can see that that they specifically have curated resources for older adults in Edgewater. Got neighbor to neighbor connections is something that was mentioned. I know we've had a few communities that have really focused on transportation issues coming out of these assessments. Also using sort of an understanding of the housing needs of older adults to focus on developing accessory dwelling unit ordinances or revising other ordinances. I know we've got folks that have very specifically created sort of public safety officers that are focused on liaising directly with older adults to make sure that public safety understands those specific needs. Lots of great examples. Yep, that is, it's funny that I'm laughing at the don't want to be treated as blue-haired people anymore. One of the spiels I always give when sort of kicking off Boomer Bond assessments is how important volunteerism is to older adults, but sitting them in a room and asking them to stuff envelopes ain't going to cut it. It's got to be something a little more significant than that to really keep them engaged, to make sure they come back and continue to contribute in that really important way. Well, thank you for those. Those are super helpful. This is kind of another sort of, you got 4 options here. How has your jurisdiction's focus on meeting the needs of the older adult population changed in the past year? And when I say past year, clearly I'm talking about pandemic. All the way from, on the left-hand side, it's a major priority with resources needed to support sustainable action, all the way to maybe this is not an issue that we've addressed. So I think you can probably see the options. I will admit survey design bias is they're not great, but this is about where I thought folks would land. As you can imagine, this is clearly an issue that has really emerged as a critical issue during the pandemic. So great to see how many communities have really focused on this issue over the past year, as well as recognizing that maybe some other priorities have ultimately diverted attention as well. So I will go to just the last question, which I will admit is a little self-serving. As I mentioned, I'm just sort of curious how and what way DRCOG and or sort of our growing series of age-friendly planning partners can support your current and future efforts to better prepare for an growing older adult population. Short version is, on this topic in particular, we are always here and ready to serve. So we're open to hearing how and what way we can help your communities think through this important topic. And with that flow, I can actually stop sharing and keep this open. So as long as folks have it open on their phone or their browser, I will keep this open and they can continue to offer their answers, and I can collect it a little bit later. So they'll have a few more minutes to continue to provide input for us as to how and what way we can direct our resources to assist our member governments. So with that concludes kind of my many items I wanted to cover. As I noted, I'll throw some things in the chat that you can chase down a little bit later as well.
Thank you, Brad, very much. As Brad said, he'll leave that open. So if you have some additional comments you'd like to provide, please do so. It will get back to staff and we'll definitely take it under consideration and advisement. I can tell you that. So thank you very much. All righty, that takes us to the next section. Let me see here, legislative update. And I know Rich is here. Rich, I might just kick this off because we want to be at least conscious of time here. Just let everybody know, as you know, I mean, we're in the crazy season.
That's fine, Doug.
Of the legislative. Rich?
I'm down at the Cap.
If you're frozen, Rich.
He's at the Capitol.
Yeah, I heard that part. No, I just might real quick just say we're in day 91 of 120 of the session right now. As of Monday, 612 bills have been introduced. So you can imagine the craziness that's going on at the Capitol right now. And looks like Rich is down there.
Yeah.
I would like to point out a couple bills that I'm sure you guys are definitely aware of, and they're both transportation bills. The first is Senate Bill 238, which would create a Front Range Passenger Rail District. I don't know if your council has had conversations about that bill. The DRCOG board did at our April meeting and took a position of monitor. The comments we received from the board were fairly consistent. It was primarily, they were concerned with the timeliness of this bill. That most thought, I'm generalizing, most thought that, that they would have preferred to see this bill introduced in a session yet to come. Once the alignment was established, or there was final alignment recommended by the commission that's doing the alignment. So anyway, so we took a position of a monitor on that. That did get out of the Senate yesterday and is headed over to the House now. Rich, correct anything I'm saying is wrong, but I believe that's the case. And it did have some additional amendments on there. One specifically that was an issue for our board. They had concerns about the representation of that district commission board, whatever it would be established. There would be an additional seat for representation within the DRCOG area. So I think that would give us 4 seats on that commission. The governor has 6 seats on that commission, and the other COGs along the Front Range, it varies some population, but I think that Colorado Springs would now have 3, North Front Range would have 2, and Pueblo would have 1. I think that's pretty close to accurate. I don't know if anybody had any comments on that bill, or if you guys are hearing anything different from your constituents or council or commission. Okay. There are a couple comments in the chat. I should check those here real quick, just to make sure. Yeah, Don made a comment with regards to focusing on current transportation needs, and that was part of our discussion. We've had plenty of presentations from the Front Range Passenger Rail Commission about their project and where they are in their planning analysis, and that has been again a consistent message of our board, you know, and the necessity obviously to concentrate on current transportation needs and whether the Front Range Passenger Rail concept helps in furthering, you know, those transportation improvements that we need in our current system. Rich, you might want to mute, Rich.
I know, sorry. I've been trying to find a quieter spot, but I can't.
The other bill I'll mention is the big one, is the elephant in the living room when it comes to transportation right now, is Senate Bill 260. And that is the bill that would create, would raise, raise like just over $5 billion in new funding from a variety of sources, a variety of fees, as well as general fund contribution, as well as federal stimulus money is also included in there to an extent. It would create 4 new enterprises, would revise an existing enterprise. The bridge enterprise would now be referred to as the bridge and tunnel enterprise. Again, the bill dropped last week and our board did have an opportunity to have a discussion about that at our board work session last Wednesday. And my question for you all is if your councils / commissions are planning on taking a position on that bill, and whether you are or have already, because we're curious, because the board is planning on taking a position at our board meeting next Wednesday. And I was just curious to see if you all have had conversations around your council. Some of your councils, maybe that's not a common practice for you guys to take positions on bills, but I'm just curious to get your input.
Doug,
Oh, go ahead, Mark. I was just going to say, Michelle mentioned in chat that they're planning on discussing a position next Monday, and that's Arapahoe County.
Yeah. So Doug, at this point, we're not. However, it's something I think that we're keeping an eye on, and you know, certainly as more conversation occurs, I think that might be something that we would consider.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other councils, commissions planning on taking a position?
Doug, I can tell you, Lakewood hasn't taken a position yet, but we intend to. We have a regular legislative committee meeting. And so I anticipate that being a point of conversation, but I can't remember when the next meeting is. It's probably early next week.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know your mayor's been active in Metro Mayor's conversations for sure.
Yeah.
There's caucus. Anything else on that? Rich, that was the only 2 bills I was going to mention. I'll just, before I kick it to you, if you have anything else real quickly, I just want to ask the city managers, county managers, if there were any bills that they're actively watching that they would like DRCOG to keep an eye on too, or anything out there.
Well, the jail admissions bill, what is that, SB 62, I think it is. That one is probably the #1 thing we're working on, or we're keeping an eye on, and we have taken a position on that one.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir. And I know Malcolm, you put in Senate Bill 21.
I did. That's one we have taken a position on, and it's a specific roadmap for achieving air quality compliance for the region.
Oh, yeah.
So It's really important to Erie because we've got a lot of oil and gas activities and transportation issues all around the area. So we did take a strong support position on that one.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir, very much. I might also mention that there are a couple rulemakings that are happening in the transportation area too, related to greenhouse gas emissions that I'm sure you're probably aware of. One that's really being led by CDOT, and it's related to establishing sub-state budgets. So each MPO/COG, well, really MPO areas would get a greenhouse gas emission budget that they would have to comply with. Is similar to like our ozone conformity determinations that we do. So we've been working really closely with CDOT on that. Our biggest concern is that we don't want to do analysis at the project level, because quite frankly, it's just, in our transportation system is so immense and huge, right? Introducing a project is just noise in the model. It's not going to get what they think it's going to get. So we've been pretty vocal about that, and we're very knowledgeable about this. We're very knowledgeable about this field, and I think we're going to make sure that our voice is heard. We are planning on being a party to the rulemaking, so we'll make sure that our voice is heard in that process. The other one, of course, is the Employee Traffic Reduction Program rulemaking, also associated with the Greenhouse Gas Emission Roadmap. And so we've been actively working with the RAC and the state on that as well. I've been very vocal. I sit on the RAC board. I've been very vocal about the necessity in the early days, at least, of when this was being talked about, of reaching out to businesses and make sure that they're aware of this and creating a level of comfort. I'm not sure they've been able to accomplish that, which is disappointing to me. But I think moving forward, obviously the state needs to do a better job of getting that word out. I fear we're getting close now. The Air Quality Control Commission is meeting on May 20th, at which time the state CDPHE will be requesting rulemaking in August for ETRP. The CDOT rulemaking was originally going to be requested on May 20th, but it looks like that's going to be delayed until June, requesting rulemaking. So just FYI on all that. If you would like more information, please just give me a holler, and I can really get down in the weeds with this stuff with you all if you're interested. And Brad provided a link to the ETRP conversations that are occurring. Rich, is there anything else?
Well, the only thing I can maybe add at this point is the 260, the transportation bill, is on the Senate second reading calendar for tomorrow. So I think their intent is to do second reading on the bill tomorrow, although I think most of you know that doesn't always happen. They have several other big issues on their floor calendar for tomorrow, but I think they do intend to have the transportation discussion. And the only other thing I would add is, I've heard, this is sort of second and third hand, but I've heard a number of people say that at this point, the sponsors are going to be extremely reluctant to accept any amendments to the bill. There were a small number of technical cleanup amendments in committee, nothing substantive, and I think understanding the lengthy and extensive stakeholder process that went into before this bill being drafted, I guess I'm not surprised to hear that they're not going to be crazy about amending it much going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. No, that seems to be a clear message for sure. I know we have some concerns about section 28 of the bill that speaks to kind of more planning process related stuff, that certain things they would like to see included in our long range planning process that we have some concerns about. Is just the I think it looks good on paper, but I think it's very difficult to actually to do. So it's not the most pragmatic approach. It's stuff that I believe environmental interests wanted in there that in all practicality is very difficult to do. So we're continuing to work with CDOT and others to see if we can get some of that language amended, but stay tuned. Anything else on the legislative front that anybody would like to share? Thanks, Rich. Appreciate you. Stay safe down there.
All right, you guys. Yeah, it's crazy already. So.
All right, buddy.
All right.
We'll see you.
Thanks. Okay.
All right. So the last thing on our list today is what's next with regards to any future topics we would like to have at this quarterly meeting, or any updates that any of the managers would like to provide. I do have one question that I'd like to get your reaction to with regards to back to the office. I'm kind of interested to know where each of you are, what stage of getting back to the office that you're in. If you'd be willing to share. Yeah, Kathy. You're muted.
How's that? Better?
Yep.
Okay, so isn't that frustrating? So we're doing a transition, 1-month transition starting May 17th to June, I think it's June 15th. And so we've sent out an all employee message that that's the transition month back to normal. So we're calling it transition to normal. And we're unlocking our doors to the public. And so it's kind of this hybrid. The intent is to get really close to normal in June. So we're working up new teleworking, rules and regs, et cetera. So that's our intent. We're also watching very closely any public health order, and we follow the county really closely. So that's what we're doing. It seems to be working pretty well. It eases some of the anxiety when employees have to take care of needs like what childcare or guardian kind of stuff. So we're giving them a month to kind of help figure that out as we ease into this. So that's what we're doing. So far, it seems to be working pretty well.
Great. No, that's great, Kathy. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Don, see your hand up. I see you're on the phone. Oh, Don, yeah, there you go. I think you're live audio now.
I should be able to be okay. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Yeah. I had to reconnect a couple times. So we've been open in some capacity since last June. With 3,000 employees and multiple departments, there is no one size fit all. So I have not, and the board has not mandated a policy, and I don't see us mandating a policy across the board. And I know we talk about new normal or return to normal or whatever. We've improvised, adapted, and overcome the things that have occurred over the last 18 months. And so whatever normal was, we're not going back to that. We're going to whatever our new procedures are. And I know that's the same thing Kathy's doing, stuff like that. So are we going back to in-person board meetings? No, not yet. The board's just not comfortable with that. Are we ready to do that? Yes. As soon as they want to come back in person, I'm in my office right now. I'm in my office every day since like last June. But as immunizations continue to grow and those types of things, we get the all clear on Monday. Public health will, put they're going to echo that from the state. I don't think Dr. Comstock's approach has been not to deviate too much from the state. And it's hard enough to get the rest of the metro area to agree, especially when you got crazy people down south doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And, anyway, yeah. And if crazy people are here from the south, I'm sorry, but you're crazy. I actually live in the Springs, so I'm crazy too. But anyway, we're going to be going. So we do recognize, though, that people that want to come in person, what we haven't really been doing is fully addressing the walk-in service that we used to do. And starting next week, we will definitely have people available. We're definitely going to take advantage of the remote learning that we've figured out that who can work remotely. So we'll capitalize on that because that saves us on infrastructure. It saves us on electricity and power use and all the things that go along with that. It also affects in terms of commuting and sustainability. So when somebody's not driving 2/3 of our workforce live outside of Jefferson County. So they don't have to come to work and they can stay in Adams or Arapahoe or wherever they live and work from there, then that's good for the environment too. So we're doing our best to capitalize on the things that we've learned. We'll go into all clear on Monday. We will have in-person. So like our planning and zoning department, for the most part, we've been doing all of our work by appointment. But we'll have now that when we go and we're more open and we expect that people will show up, we'll have people at the front desk to handle walk-ins. And so that's the kind of approach that we're taking.
Great. Thank you, Don, very much. Appreciate your good comments.
Hey, Doug, just real quickly, return to in-person services on June 14th.
Okay, June 14th. Thank you, sir. Matt.
Centennial's 1 month behind. We'll be back to normal in July, but we are starting passport services and court earlier than that. We've actually started that this month.
Great. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Michelle?
We have stayed open in some form or fashion, but we're adopting a work from home policy countywide June 1st. And then we've asked everyone to implement department by department by July 1.
Okay, Michelle, can I ask you with regards to that policy? I mean, is that new for you guys? You guys didn't have a telework policy in the past?
We had a telework policy, but it was more employee driven, so it was permissive. This is more top down, identifying what positions could work from home, and then we have remote work agreements, probably like everyone else, that you'll define everything. So it's really for us kind of a test to do post pandemic, and it'll help us look, given our budget situation, if we look towards consolidation and over the long term. So we're going to give it a year to socialize and normalize, and then potentially keep it, maybe look at mandatory remote work, and potentially getting rid of facilities. So we'll see.
Oh, excellent. Thank you,
Michelle, I'd be interested in a copy of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to send it around. We stole from other people. Larimer had a great policy.
You localized it, Michelle. Yeah. The guys. Great. That's great news. Anybody else?
We've had Chris Kramer join us from Cherry Hills Village.
Oh yeah.
And, Chris, the question is return to work. Has your community made any decisions and developed any policies for what that's going to look like?
Yeah, first of all, sorry for I'm being tardy. I had some login credential challenges. Yes, we interesting timing for this question. We are opening up City Hall and our public safety building for public usage starting Monday. We were able to host a vaccine clinic here for employees only, and a little over a month ago, and it's allowed us to get on schedule for opening the building. And we're also then on Tuesday having our first in-person city council meeting. So, we're on the precipice of that. For telework, as Michelle mentioned, a very robust and progressive policy. We're a much smaller organization, and I think we're obviously set up to work from home, but with so few people in the office, we're going to start out by having everybody in the office, but then having maybe a little bit more flexibility if folks have childcare issues or some other things like that, and they need to work from home. But as a baseline, we'll be in the office.
Very good. Thank you, Chris, very much. Anybody else? Okay. Well, so with regards to upcoming topics or anything, do you guys have anything or any announcements you'd like to make to the group before we call it a day?
Well, Doug, there's one other issue we wanted to talk with the managers about, the ones left on the call, and that is, what would you like us to do with the infrastructure that we've set up for the Thursday morning calls, the 30-minute check-in with just the managers and not an assigned topic. So, attendance has kind of been spotty on those, and we're not sure if you're finding value in those and you want us to continue those. if maybe we should transition to a once a month model and make it an hour with an assigned topic that you guys want to take a deeper dive into, or what would be of value to you all. So.
Flo, I got since I'm I'm definitely not a regular attender, but I probably come more often than, you know, a lot. And usually when I do, there's like 3 of us. So I don't think it's a real good use of your time. I love the conversation. I love to be able to pop in and shoot the breeze with Penny and you, and just, you know, talk, commiserate with one another. It's kind of a good gathering. I just don't know if it's a great use of your time. So I mean, if you made it once a month and maybe it was more emphasized that we get together, because I mean, we do that. We've been trying to do that with our city and county managers, like just in Jefferson County. And then you add a Dr. Cod meeting, and then you add a CCI meeting and a CML meeting and an ACCA, that you add a lot of different meetings. And so then people are all meetinged out, even though it does provide a little therapy for those of us that do show up. So I appreciate that, but as much as I like you as my therapist, I don't know that it's a good use of your time. So if you want to do it to once a month and maybe make more of an, like we've advertised and we all commit. If you made the commitment to have the meeting and really nobody's been showing up. So on our side, if you went less frequently and we were willing to commit, I mean, I'll commit, I'll show up. But I appreciate you. But I do think that you probably might be worth rethinking.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. I mean, I think it certainly had value, you know, when we were in COVID and there was an opportunity there to kind of share best practices and everything. It might have kind of jumped the shark a little bit now, right? To use the old Happy Days term, but but anyway, yeah, we're willing to do whatever you guys want us to do. I mean, Flo's been great. And so just, you guys let us know what you would like us to do. Kathy, I see your mic's off.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Don. I've attended a few times. I just have so many scheduling conflicts, especially something about Thursday mornings. So but I value them and I really appreciate Flo, and I always feel guilty when I don't attend. So if we could narrow that down to once a month and put a topic on it, I think it'll drive more people attending. And I think I agree with Donna, it'll be a better use of your time, Flo. So I really appreciate all your effort though. So I'd like to apologize for all the meetings I've missed.
If I could actually add on to that for a second. Thursday mornings, I agree with Kathy. Thursday mornings are tough. I have a standing meeting, back-to-back standing meetings. The once a month idea is great, but maybe not right out of the gate Thursday morning. It would be my only suggestion. Okay,
so I'll commit to this because I really do like hanging with all of you managers, right? I look forward to my Thursday mornings. So it's never been a burden for me, but I'll commit to this. I'll work to develop a poll to send to all of you managers to see timing wise, day of the week, time of day, length of time, that type of thing, to see if we can arrive at kind of, you know, a group think on what's going to work for you all. We'll take it down to once a month and kind of go from there. So but just know that I value my time with you guys. So.
Yeah, Flo, I apologize if I made it sound like I really do enjoy the time too. When I do show up, I always feel better after I've been at one of those meetings, especially, you know, Michael Penny is one of the regulars that shows up. So it's good to hear, you know, what's going on in Castle Pines and the crazy people down south. That's always fun. But I think the other part of it too is if you do schedule an hour once a month, don't feel like you got to program that whole hour. I would only program maybe 15 or 20 minutes and then leave the rest of the time for maybe some topics that we could just throw out and say, hey, what's everybody think about this? Or what's people doing on this or whatever. I will say that the one good thing about the small group on Thursday is it's more intimate. So the stuff that we talk about, we would probably not talk about in a much larger group. So I do think, Doug, for the advantage of the small group, and it's only 30 minutes. I mean, if Flo really likes it and it's not a problem and it's not a burden, then maybe she keeps, maybe we just, it's okay for just a few people to show up because it's an intimate conversation, but it does lead to some bigger ideas and bigger things. So, you know, again, I'm indifferent. Flo, I love the sessions. I'd love to say both. If you go to an hour, I would just say, don't try to program the whole hour. I just try to program maybe only a third of it at most.
Agreed. Yeah. Okay, that's useful. So, Flo, why don't myself and you get together and we'll talk about this, and we'll probably send out a doodle poll, everybody, find out when the best time is for a recurring meeting. And that way we have a better understanding. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, listen, I want to be respectful of your time. So appreciative of seeing everybody. And we'll be in touch real soon. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, all.
I really did enjoy the background music to that video. It was awesome. Doug's thinking the same thing I am. It was good. That was a good presentation for those guys.
Yeah, it was. They did a good shot. All right. See y'all. Good seeing you. Bye.
All right. Take care, everybody.